So the Beninese actually invaded Lagos, Eko, that place, and then they conquered it. Now, when they invaded, they met people there. Some of the people that they met there are Aworis and other people. Now, all of those other people that they met there are loosely referred to as Yoruba people. Now, the word Yoruba is a recent word. 200 years ago, there was nothing like the word Yoruba. It's a recent word. So, I mean, before then, I mean, I don't want to go into there because that one, a lot of people are emotionally attached to that. So if you go there, you might start, you know. But anyway, so before the British came, you were either Awori, or you were Ibomina, or you were Ibadan, or you were Owu, or you were Egba, or you were Ekiti, or you were Ondo, or you were Ikale. There was nothing like Yoruba. So when the Benin came, they conquered Lagos, or rather Eko. They called the place Eko. They renamed it Eko, just like you have with the Fulanis now. You see, when the Fulanis conquer a place, they don't leave the place with its original name. They change the name of the place. So that place called Eko, even before that name, Eko, it had a name. But the challenge is that we don't know what that name is. It's been lost in history. Now, the word Eko actually means barracks. It actually means barracks or war camp. So if you schooled in Benin, or if you're from Benin, there's a place in Benin called Ekosodin. Ekosodin. That Ekosodin is actually a corruption of the word of the words Eko Oshodi, meaning Oshodi's war camp. And it's now a favorite place for students of the University of Benin. They stay there. It's like a satellite campus. So the Beninese owned Lagos as a right of conquest for maybe about, let's say, 400 years. Now, even the present Oba of Lagos, Oba Rilwan Wakiolu, has stated it, and he said it on video, you can actually watch it, that he and his ancestors are from Benin. However, just as the Benin owned Lagos as a right of conquest, they lost Lagos to the British. They lost Lagos to the British. So Oba Akitoye. Now, some Yorubas, in a bid to make the name a Yoruba name, they call him Akintoye. No, that's not his name. His name is actually Akitoye. 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 He actually, there's a letter that exists, you know, when they were transferring Lagos to the British. And then he was telling them that before you guys came, this was Bini territory. So now, what happens in modern times? In modern times, when, you know, civilization has come, you have nation states, all those areas that were taken by right of conquest, when a nation becomes a nation state, it's returned to the original Aboriginal people. And that would be the people loosely referred to as Yoruba. Like I told you again, Yoruba is just it's a word that was dreamt up by a man called Samuel Ajayi Crowther.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because according to the history, we were taught in schools, Samuel Ajayi Crowther, and the English.
Well, Samuel Ajayi Crowther did a lot of damage to the people called Edekiri. So etymologically, they are called Edekiri, but then the name of the people before Samuel Ajayi Crowther did his damage was Omoti Olu Iwabi. And then it's now corrupted to Omoluwabi. So the actual name is Omoti Olu Iwabi. Now, Olu Iwa is actually believed to be the biblical Noah. So if you go to Yoruba etymology, you see that a lot of the Yoruba Orishas are actually in the Bible. They're actually in the Bible. For instance, now you take an Orisha, like La Murudu. La Murudu. La Murudu is unchanged. The name is unchanged in the Bible. So in the English translation, they call him Nimrod. But as you know, I studied Hebrew, and I read scripture in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. In Hebrew, the name is Na Murudu. Na Murudu. But you see, you say, okay, La Murudu is different from Na Murudu. No, among the Yorubas, N and L are interchangeable. N and L are interchangeable. So for instance now, some Yoruba will say, Ki Nowi. That's what did you say? Another will say, Kilowi. So for instance, maybe if your name was like Limota, some Yorubas will call you Nimota, and then others will call you Limota. So it's like with the Igbos, for instance. With the Igbos, they have a challenge with the R. So some Igbos call RL, and others call LR. So for instance, now they will say Odili, others will say Odiri. Like my daughter's name.
Another very good example.
Exactly.
Ora.
Like my daughter's name is Ebele. Ebele Chiku. Ebele Chiku. But some Igbos will call it Ebere Chiku. It's the same name. So that's it. So when Samuel Ajayi Crowther is actually from modern day Oyo State. He was captured by Fulani slavers and taken to Lagos. And then he was sold to the Portuguese. What you have to understand there is that a lot of people are not aware that there are more Yorubas in Brazil than there are in Nigeria. Okay, let's look at it now. The population of Nigeria is said to be about 210 million. Of that, maybe Yorubas constitute something like about 40 million. Do you agree with me? Now, the population of black people in Brazil is 120 million. And most of them, something like about 60%, are actually of Yoruba origin. So Yoruba is spoken in Brazil. Now, don't forget, these are places I've been to. You know, if you go to Salvador Bahia, they speak Yoruba there. They actually speak Yoruba. If you go to Cuba, the Yoruba that they speak in Cuba is better than the Yoruba that they speak in Lagos. But they don't call it Yoruba, they call it Oruba. So Samuel Ajayi Crowther did so much damage to those people. You know, when the British were trying to come up with the country called Nigeria, they needed an ethnic identity. So they had an ethnic identity with the Hausa, and then with the Fulani, and then also with the Igbos. But they didn't have an ethnic identity for the people now loosely called Yoruba, which are etymologically called Edekiri. So they tasked Samuel Ajayi Crowther to come up with a name. Now, don't forget, Samuel Ajayi Crowther was taken as a slave boy by Fulanis from his village. Now, the name that they were calling all those people is the name that Samuel Ajayi bastardized and called Yoruba. Now, I know the word, I'm not going to say it here because it's not a good word. It has a bad meaning. So if you want to understand, you know, for instance now, if you understand, even in that so-called Yoruba Bible, the word Eshu is not actually devil.
I said that many times.
I went to Cuba. When I went to Cuba, you know, I went to a church in Cuba, in a part of Cuba called Trinidad. Trinidad, there's a country called Trinidad. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Trinidad La Playa in Cuba. They have a church there, and one of the saints there is Eshu. As a matter of fact, in Lagos, one of the most popular places in Lagos is actually named after Eshu. Eshu is not devil. But there was so much pressure on Samuel Ajayi Crowther to come up with a name for devil, and then he now came up with the Yoruba Orisha. And that even Eshu is not the full name. The full name is Eshu Elegbera. And then, you know, all over Yoruba land, they used to have Ojubo. Ojubo is shrine. Ojubo. Now, the place that you know in Lagos called Oju Elegba is actually named after Eshu. It's actually called Ojubo Elegbara. And then, for short, just like how, you know, people call Eko Oshodin, and they now bastardize it as Eko Sodin. For short, now Ojubo Elegbara, which means Eshu's shrine, now became Oju Elegba. But if you go there, Oju Elegba, the shrine is still there, and it's still written plainly, Ojubo Elegbara. So you begin to understand, a lot of, because I went around these countries, going there, spent a lot of money, you know, going from country to country to help, and a lot of Yoruba Obas reached me privately to tell me, thank you for what you've done for our people. And you see, there's a lot of intellectual laziness among the black peoples of West Africa. So you see, you know, if we want to travel, we want to go to New York, we want to go to London, we want to go to, we don't go. I'll give you a very good example. Jews in America, they are so closely linked to Israel. Nigeria, the Yoruba of Nigeria, this is something that I've said to the Uni, is that we need to be closely linked to the Yoruba peoples in Brazil, in Cuba, where they speak the purest form of, one of the purest forms of Yoruba, and other parts of the world. So basically, in answer to your question, that's what Samuel Ajayi Crowther did to the, what you call Yoruba.
Okay, awesome. Let us, can you mute me when I'm talking so you can hear me clearly? Okay, so you're muted. Thank you very much. Awesome stuff. I'd like us to expatiate a little bit on issue. It's not easy to have you here, so I want to milk as much as I can from you regarding this topic. Let's talk about issue. Let's talk about the difference between the Yoruba issue and the biblical concept of Satan. Because a lot of people up until today, issue lagbara ko nigbala, meaning the devil is powerful, but he has no salvation. So the average Yoruba man who's a Christian prays against issue. So what exactly is issue? Can you just throw a bit of highlight on the deity?
All the Orishas in Yoruba land, all of them were human beings. There is not one of them that was a spirit. All of them, they were human beings, except Edumare. Edumare is the creator God. So for instance, I'll give a very good example now. Shango was a real human being. His mother is actually what they call Kappa. Because you have to understand, ancient Yorubas, you know, the different people now usually called Yoruba, they were very, very, very modern in their approach to history. Now, the problem is that colonialism has now robbed the modern day Yoruba of their history. So you sent me a video about a girl saying that Yoruba people are very ignorant. They call all Igbo, all Southerners Igbo. That's not true. If you see, in every Yoruba community, they have people called Ayo. So for instance, if you see any Yoruba man today, maybe his name is Ayodele or Ayobadejo, or maybe his name is Ayontade, their ancestors were people that used to do Oriki. Because all those people that used to do Oriki, they were Ayo. Ayo, the word Ayo means drummer, because Oriki goes with drums. So each of the Yoruba clans, dialects, whether Ibomina, whether Oyo, whether Ibadan, whether Eba, whether Uru, you know, Gbagbo, all of them, they had their Ayo. So the Benin's, they carved their history. So for instance now, 500 years ago until today, if you go to Benin, if you go to the Oba's palace and you leave, as soon as you leave, somebody is going to carve everything that you did in wood. And there's a place in the Oba's palace that they keep it there. They will carve everything in wood. Now, my grandfather was Olu of Wari. The same thing used to happen with our people, Ishakiri. But the Yorubas did not used to carve their history. The Yorubas, they used to oriki their history. So they had in every can an ayo. Now, maybe like for like a festival, like maybe Ojude Oba or some of that, now the ayo will go around. So the prominent people in the community, the ayo will come and then they will sing your oriki, trace your lineage for you. And then, so that's how they kept their history. In English, they are called griots. They are called griots. So for those, the Yoruba, and I'm not talking about pre-colonial Yoruba, they had a name for every tribe in Nigeria. Every tribe in Nigeria. Now, a lot of those names are lost. Only the major tribe, the names that they call the major tribes, are still remaining. For instance, now, Igbos were not called Yibo. Yibo is a new word, it's a derogatory word for Lagos Yoruba. You know, it came about in Lagos. What Yorubas actually called Igbo were Kobo people. They called Bini people, they called them Edo as a people, and then their place, they called them Ibinu. Ibinu. Ibinu just simply means people that get angry too quickly. Ibinu. Because why they call them Ibinu is because they were always coming to fight, always conquering people, always coming to fight. The reason why a lot of Yoruba people are Muslims today is not because they were converted to Islam or they were conquered to Islam. It's because of the Binis. What happened was that the Binis were going about conquering people. They conquered up to modern day Dahomey, which is now renamed Bini. That word, Benin Republic, is actually referring to Benin. So when the Benin people were conquering these different Yoruba clans, what they did, they had to get a mercenary army, Fulanis. But those Fulanis said, look, we can't come and help you because you are Arne. Arne means infidel. But if you accept our religion, then we can come and help you. And that's how a lot of Yoruba people became Muslims. So for Yorubas, for instance, now, they had a different word for Hausa, they had a different word for Fulani. Fulani, they call them Fulani. Hausa, they call them Gambari. So you see, Yoruba, they have a very rich history, but intellectual laziness has disconnected them from their ancient history. And it's not just Yoruba people, a lot of other people. I'll give you a very good example now. In my place now, I'm a Shakiri. My grandfather was Olu. The present Olu, all Olus of Ishakiri, they call them Ogiame. Even that word, Ogiame, that word is actually of Benin origin. So in modern day Yoruba, something like maybe between 3 to 6% of the words in modern day Yoruba are of Benin origin. Something like 3 to 6% of the words in modern day Yoruba are of Benin origin. But you see, through acculturation, they've been accepted into Yoruba. So even a lot of people who are now called loosely Yoruba actually believe that those words are of Yoruba origin. It's just like, for instance, now, you use the word sachet, right? Sachet water. Give me a sachet water. That word has been accepted into English. But originally, that word is a French word, sachet. You use the word cliché. You use the word apostrophe. You use the word ballet. All exactly. All of those words, they're actually French words accepted into English.
Very, very correct. Like the coupe that the Americans call
go back to
also
your question. Eshu was a real human being. You see this man that died now, Fadeyi Oloro. In the olden days, after this Fadeyi Oloro had died, he will now become an Orisha. Just like in the Catholic Church, when somebody who of great faith or great renown dies, the Pope will canonize that person, and the person will now become what? A saint. That's how it was. So Shango, his mother was Kappa. Kappa is what the Yoruba people call Nupe people. Nupe people are called Kappa. Shango was a real human being, and then when he died, he became an Orisha. Lamurudu was a real human being. When he died, he became an Orisha. Eshu was actually a real human being. As a matter of fact, it's believed that Eshu was actually living in the Oyo area. And then this Eshu was a trickster. Nowadays, it was a 419, a notorious 419. So, like he was a trickster. So, he had renown. And then when he died, and then some people have been saying that it was actually a she. But, it's not something that can actually be proven right now. So when the person called Eshu, when they died, that person now became an Orisha. If you go right now to Brazil, if you go to Cuba, if you enter some Catholic churches, they actually have, these stained glasses on the wall. One of the saints there is actually Eshu. I went to a Catholic church in Cuba, and one of the saints there, because you have to understand, in Cuba and in Brazil, they've taken a lot of Yoruba culture into Catholicism, and they formed a new religion called Santeria. And then they don't use the word saints in Santeria. All the saints in Santeria are called Orisha. This Oriki that you Yorubas have lost, they do Oriki in Cuba. When I went to Cuba. And the funniest thing about Cuba, Oyibo, white Cubans, black Cubans, they believe in Eshu, Elegbara.
Absolutely. I want us to talk about the Beninese, how they conquered the Itsekiri, and why they never conquered the Ife or your empire.
The Beninese never conquered Itsekiri. Let me explain to you what happened. You see, the biggest mistake that a lot of people in modern day Nigeria make is to think that a people have the same origin as their royal family. For instance, now, Lagos, the royal family of Lagos are Bini. The people of Lagos are Yoruba. The owners of Lagos, they are Yoruba. But their royal family are Bini. Now, sometime about yeah.
Sorry, can I interrupt you? Just like the British royal family is related.
No, they're not related. They are fully German. When you say related, no, they're not related.
German. And the Tsar of Russia is also from the same ancestry. So, what's your point?
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Sorry to interrupt.
So about like 660 years ago, there was a challenge in the Oba's palace, because you know the Oba had a lot of wives. Now, one of them had a son, and then another one had a son. Now, the one that had the first son, she wasn't very wise. She was bathing the son, you know, cleaning up the son, you know, dressing the son to present to the Oba. Now, the other one had her baby and just cut the placenta, the umbilical cord, and immediately took that child and the son and presented it to the Oba of Benin. So the Oba pronounced that son Edaike. Edaike is a Benin word. It means crown prince. That means the one who will be Oba after the Oba dies. So the other woman came and then said, no, my son was born before this one. And so there was controversy. And then in Benin land, listen, if the Oba says something, he doesn't take it back. It cannot go back to his mouth. And so the Oba said, look, I have pronounced this one Edaike. It's not that I don't believe you, but it has come out of my mouth. So that there's no civil war in Benin. You see, that place that place over there, go there, Iwere, go there, and go and be Ogie Ame. Ogie Ame. Now, the word Ogie Ame, which is now being baptized to be called Ogie Ame. Ogie Ame is two words, Ogie, meaning Lord, and Ame, meaning water. Because Itsekiri land, my place where we're from, Warri, is riverine. So that's how that prince, the name of the prince is a person called Iginua. Iginua left and now went and became the first Olu of Iwere. And he's my ancestor. So that's how. Now, if you take Lagos now, or what the Benin is called Eko, the reason why a lot of people in modern day Yoruba land now say, how is it possible that Benin went to fight and defeat and conquer Lagos when it takes you 3 hours 30 minutes to drive from Benin to Lagos? Actually, it takes you less time to go by canoe from Benin to Lagos. The Benin never came through the land. They actually came through boats in a regatta from Benin to Lagos.
Okay, awesome. So, can we talk about the origin of Yoruba? I don't know if you throw some light on that. It's very controversial. A lot of people say the Yorubas are of Bini origin. I disagree. I believe Yorubas are from Ile. But what
I don't have a perspective of that. I just have the facts. I know some people are going to listen and say, oh, who does he think he is? No, facts don't lie. And that's why it's very, very sensitive discussing Nigerian history. For instance, I've said to myself, I'm never ever going to discuss Igbo history again. Because a lot of people from the Southeast are so sensitive, they don't understand that history is what it is. Now, when you talk about Yoruba origin, if you want to know about Yoruba origin, you go to science. Science. You have the Bini bronzes and you have the Ife bronzes. Both of them have been carbon dated, both Bini and then both Yoruba. Now, my ancestors, because I'm from the royal family of the Shekiri, my ancestors come from Benin. If I want to support anybody, I will support the Bini people. But they have carbon dated the Bini bronzes and they've carbon dated the Ife bronzes. And the Ife bronzes are older. The Ife bronzes are over 1,000 years old. So how can you now say that the Ife people come from Benin? It doesn't make scientific sense. It doesn't make sense. And then when you now go to scripture, you read in Genesis chapter 6 all the way to Genesis chapter 11. La Murudu is mentioned there in scripture. And then we know for a fact that Genesis, the book of Genesis, is over 4,000 years old. So already, and then this also goes down to the origin of the who owns Lagos. Because if the Ife bronzes are older than the Bini bronzes, and we know for a fact that they are true carbon dating, then it also means that the Aboriginal people who were in Eko before the Bini came were the original owners of the land. Because those people, all of them, they have their homesteads in Ile-Ife. So I know there's really no controversy about that. There's no controversy about that. You know, I think that controversy should be put to rest. You know, a lot of our people are not able to transcend their tribe and their emotions when they want to talk about history. I'll give you a very good example. You know, I'm going to give you a very good example. If you want to talk about the history of slavery, you can even lead to a civil war in Nigeria.
Wow. Wow. Why is that?
Okay, let me shock you. When you talk about who owns Lagos, you know, the Aboriginal people, obviously they own Lagos. So that would be the Aworis and then other people who were there before, correct? Now, after the British conquered, or rather they took Lagos from the Bini, from the Oba of Lagos, the royal family of Lagos, when they took them, obviously by right of, will I say conquest, or by right of treaty, Lagos belonged to them, correct? Good. Now, if you look at it now, when the British, they actually, they declared slave trade illegal in 1807. They have Emancipation Act in 1807. And then beginning from 1797, they began to have a problem in London, this modern day London, of a lot of black freed slaves in the streets of London, homeless in the streets of London, constituting nuisance. Some of them started to steal. The women were engaged in prostitution. It was a major problem, not just in Lagos, or not just in London, also in Paris. So what they began to do is that they began to ship them to a new place that they called Freetown. Freetown. So they took a lot of them there to Freetown. Now, what a lot of Nigerians don't know is that the French also had that same problem in Paris. So the French took their own slaves, free slaves, to a place called Libreville in modern-day Gabon. It will surprise you to know that Libreville actually means Freetown. Libreville actually means Freetown in French. But here's the challenge that you have to understand. The slaves that the British had, majority of the slaves that the British had were actually Yoruba, with a splattering of Igbos. The slaves that the Portuguese had, the Portuguese they preferred Yoruba slaves. So the Portuguese had Yoruba slaves and Angola. They took their slaves from either Yoruba or Angola. But then the French actually preferred to take Igbo slaves. So a lot of the French slaves were taken to a place called Hispaniola. Hispaniola. Now, Hispaniola, they later changed the name of the place under Napoleon Bonaparte. They changed the name of that island from Hispaniola to San Dominique. San Dominique. Now, around 1727 thereabouts, the slaves there, they became too troublesome. Too troublesome. Reminds me of some kinds of people, right? They became too troublesome. They resisted slavery, and then it was very hard for the for the French to put them down. Eventually, there was a rebellion. There was a rebellion, and then they overthrew the slave masters, and they got their independence. And then they changed the name of that island from Saint Domingue to Haiti. Haiti, the slaves in Haiti, they had Igbo origin. That's why during the Nigerian Civil War, they supported Biafra. Now, the French had a problem, right? They had a major problem. They had a major problem. What are they going to do with their own slaves that were freed, that are now in Paris? Because they couldn't take them anymore to Saint Dominique, which was now Haiti, because they've lost control of the place. So they took them to Libreville. Now, a lot of the slaves in Freetown and some of the slaves in Libreville made their way to Lagos. They made their way to Lagos, and then they became British, let's say, British citizens under the British Protectorate in Lagos. And then some of them, they just took up names like, you know, Johnson, Vaughan. Please, I'm not saying this for political reasons. Don't start attacking me. This is history. History is not always pleasant. Some of them became survival. Some of them became roads.
I heard survival.
It just means survival. Now, not all of those people are actually freed Yoruba slaves. A lot of them were actually freed Igbo slaves. But when they came to Lagos, all of them, both the Yoruba slaves and the Igbo slaves, they became Yorubanized. So, you know, you see them with their names, you know, Mobolaji, this, you know, Benson, and all of that. Not all of them. So among these Lagosians that came back, some of them are actually of Igbo origin. I know it's going to piss off a lot of the Yorubas who are going to say, oh, no. Actually, there are original Lagosians. When I say original, I mean like people who have been Lagosians for over about 230 years, who are actually of Igbo origin.
All right. Like you said, this can cause a sick war, so let's leave it. Let's talk about other things. Let's talk about the Igbos that first settled in Lagos. What time frame can you put this original Igbo settlement in Lagos at?
The Igbos that first settled in Lagos actually came from Freetown and Libreville. You have to understand what happens is that the British dumped their free slaves in Freetown. The French dumped theirs in Libreville, which also means Freetown in present-day Gabon. You know this country, Guinea-Bissau. Guinea-Bissau is just the Portuguese version of Freetown, French, and Libreville. Guinea-Bissau is where the Portuguese dumped their own free slaves. So I'll give you a very good example. Even the current ruling family in Gabon is believed, but not proven. Now listen to me very carefully, because I don't want people to take my words and then go and twist them. Is believed, but not proven, to be of Igbo origin. That's why Haiti and Gabon were the two nations that recognized Biafra. As a matter of fact, Gabon actually took Biafran refugees. They took a lot of them, you know, probably more than 100,000. They took a lot of them. So you see, oh my gosh, I'm not going to mention his name, but there is a popular Nollywood star who is actually, who is thought to be Igbo, but who is actually Igbo from Gabon. I'm not going to mention his name. I don't want to cause controversy. I can't mention his name. I don't want to cause controversy. No, but the reason why I'm saying this is not to, I just want to show you that about how history how history is so intertwined. We have to accept ourselves as Nigerians because our history has become so intertwined. And then if you look at it now, I'll give you a very good example. There are Igbos, people who call themselves Igbos today, who are not even Igbos. They are actually of Benin origin. The Igbos of, look, this might even cause problem for me now if I start saying this now, because Igbo people will start to fight me. A lot of Igbos in modern day Onitsha, a lot of Igbos in modern day Onitsha, some parts of Anambra are actually of Bini origin. You have to understand how the Benin operates. You see, the Benin, they operated like the Greeks of ancient times and the Fulanis. You know, okay, let me give you a very, very good example. I'm sure you saw it now. I just came back from Barbados, right? Good.
Yes, where you went to Rihanna's
Barbados,
house. I caught that.
Something like 18% of the population of Barbados, they bear the name Cumberbatch. Cumberbatch. Now, I'm sure you know the actor, Benedict Cumberbatch, the famous actor. Benedict Cumberbatch family is one of the biggest slave-owning family in England. And they own slave plantations in Barbados. So, when slavery was abolished, they gave their names to their slaves, right? They gave their names to their slaves. Now, a lot of those slaves now are now Cumberbatches in Barbados, and there are more Cumberbatches in Barbados than in England. Are you getting me? Now, in Barbados, at the time, the population of Barbados was probably about like maybe about like 40,000. Of that 40,000, something like maybe 32,000 were slaves. Are you getting me? Now, the rest 8,000 were English or Irish indentured servants. So now, how can less than 8,000 people dominate 32,000 people? They had to have an army. They had to have an army. It's the same thing that the Benin did in the Onitsha area. Everywhere the Benin conquered, they made it a law that the people that they conquered cannot speak Benin, but they will learn your language. So for instance now, if the Benin went and conquered, now this is an example, they never conquered Nupe, but if they went and conquered Nupe, they will learn Nupe and they will speak Nupe to the people. But if any Nupe man speaks Benin, they will kill him. Because they were fewer in number. So in case of a crisis, they needed to communicate with themselves in a language that the local people don't understand. So they can say, you go here, you go here, you go here, and then quell any let's say rebellion. I don't know if you get me. So that's how it is. So if you start from Benin and you start going all the way to Onitsha, you are going to see people with names like Obaigbena. These are people who were Bini and went and conquered, and then they still, you see, their last name. So they can have an Igbo name, like they can have an Igbo name, like maybe Uche. But if you look at their last name, it will be either Oba or Iyase something, or you see. So that's the issue. But you see, I mean, our people are still too sore for this history. I know more, and I can mention more, but if I mention it, maybe IPOB will send people to come and look for my house in America to kill me. So let me just keep my mouth quiet.
All right. One final question. There are quite a lot what you have said. I'm familiar with, but if I say it, they'll say, where do you get this thing from? Also, there's some that I learned from you. And there's some we chat in private that is not fit for public consumption because the public is not ready to handle some of the information that many people have. But I want to end with what we all appreciate you coming. We all appreciate you sharing from your vast knowledge, history, especially personal history that you have experienced personally with your many travels. Let's just come back to Nigeria for 30 seconds. What are your thoughts concerning the upcoming governorship election, and who, in personal opinion, is qualified and capable to run Lagos? One thing is to be qualified, and another thing is to be capable. Let's not merge the two. There are people who are qualified but are not capable, and there are people who are capable but are not qualified. So who best fits? In physics, we have a line of best fits. Who best fits through those two dots of capability and qualification, in your humble opinion?
Well, I'm going to transcend my emotions, my party, my feelings, and I'm just going to go into facts. I mean, if you recall, I think about 4 months ago, I did a protest at Chatham House in London against Bola Tinubu. And while I was there, on camera, caught on video, Sanwo-Olu assaulted me. He was the only person that assaulted me. All the other people, they were even, some of them were dancing with me. Senator Tokunbo Afikiyomi was dancing with me. You know, Dayo Israel came to talk to me rudely, but he was quite gentlemanly afterwards. The only person that assaulted me was Jide Sanwo-Olu, the governor of Lagos, and he was caught on camera. He pushed me. He pushed me. And you know, well, I don't know. I'm a bit ashamed to say this, but you know, I don't get power, physical power too much. You know, so I know Sabi fights. So I'm not a coward, but I'm not a violent person. So I did not respond. However, the man has done a phenomenal job as governor of Lagos. A very phenomenal job. Look at the infrastructure he's built in 4 years. World-class metro system. In 4 years, not 8 years, 4 years. A world-class metro system. Look at the bridges he's built. Look at the free trade zone. Look at the port. Look at the airport that they've just started. Peter Obi was governor of Anambra for 8 years. Ordinary bus terminal, Peter Obi did not build. And then he has the effrontery to now tell people to reject Sanwo-Olu and vote in Gbadebo Rose-Bible, who was begging us in PDP to make him our running mate. We have the facts. If he wants to deny it, we will bring out documents for him.
John Doe was on my live a few weeks ago, and he said this exact thing, and I was
Bible denied. We will, you know what? You know, Nigerians as a word, they call it receipt. We will bring receipt for him. So I would prefer for Lagosians to vote for John Doe. I would, but I have to be realistic. Sanwo-Olu has done a very, very good job, and if you remove him midstream, it's going to affect Lagos economically. It's going to affect Lagos security. Let the man stay. He's done a very. If he was not a good governor, if he was a terrible governor, yeah, he could go. But just look at the things that he's done. The Obi has, in fact, Obi cannot compare himself to Sanwo-Olu. Even the chairman of Etiosa local government has more achievements than Peter Obi. It is a fact. If you want, I can give you data. So a lot of people are very emotional, very, very emotional. He's very emotional. Look, emotions don't move me. I'm able to transcend my emotions. And I learned that from a very, very early age. You know, going to a military school. I'm able to transcend my emotions. I have command presence. What does command presence mean? Command presence means that you are able to come out of yourself, look on top of yourself as if you are an independent third party, and take decisions that are in the best interest of everybody at that time. So if you look at it right now, Sanwo-Olu, I think, is the best and the most qualified and also a very capable person. What's his name? Gbadebo Rose-Bible. In the past, he's made some comments, praising IPOB. 2 days ago, the Global Terrorism Index named IPOB the 10th most deadly terror group in the world. Yesterday, both he and his wife were busy attacking MC Oluomo, who I don't support for what he said, and I don't support him. But MC Oluomo has not been declared a terrorist. MC Oluomo has not been named like a killer of people. You have a group that has been named the 10th most deadly terror group in the whole world. You are on video, not writing, on video praising IPOB. You have not apologized and you have not disdained what you said. And it is MC Oluomo you want that is your problem. I will tell Nigerians, I will tell Reno Omokri watching me, go out and vote for someone.
Wow, what an endorsement from a political maestro, someone who understands politics. I'm totally amazed. I remain neutral in this election because I don't have Reno's power. Reno has power. Me, I have power. I think Reno can fight. Me, I can actually, I can get physical, but I try to avoid it. And I realize that politics can be a very mental issue. And I'll give you an example since you spoke of Vivor. The other day, I was talking about Omoyele Sowore as president of Nigeria. And people were saying, he has no experience. And same people are telling me that Vivor is good for Lagos. All of a sudden, the lack of experience doesn't count anymore because it favors your side. So until we are ready to transcend emotion and actually sit down and deal with facts, to support you on Sanwo-Olu, even though I don't think I'll be voting, and I wouldn't want to pick a side, I would let you know that if Tinubu becomes the man at the top, the man at the helm of a in Nigeria, he's sworn in president. If you have an APC, it will really benefit. My opinion, I may be wrong. So I'm tending to lean towards in your choice. It's a choice. If Tinubu becomes president, if he doesn't, then it won't. This theory won't be substantiated.
You talked about
yes, please, go
experience,
ahead.
And I'm going to give you. And remember, I'm a man of science, so I always go to facts, to data. Two people. How much experience did Obama have before he became president? Obama had no experience. He had no executive experience whatsoever, none, zero, nada. But look at the economy of America under the 8 years of Obama. Okay, I'm going to ask you another question. What experience did Emmanuel Macron have before he became president of France? Emmanuel Macron was an ordinary civil servant in the French embassy in Lagos. He used to spend all his time in Fela's shrine. He can speak pidgin. No, it's a fact. He can speak pidgin. He speaks pidgin. Emmanuel Macron can speak pidgin. Went back to France, and then from there, he became president with a new party. So Omoyele Sowore's inexperience is not going to count against him. However, Omoyele Sowore is going to have a challenge. I disagree with you that he will make a good leader. Omoyele Sowore has caused a lot of damage. He's told a lot of lies through his Sahara reporters. And if he were to come out and apologize to all the people that he's damaged, then he will have a moral authority to say he wants to run for president. But you can't come out and say you want to fight the establishment when you have used your own media to blackmail people. I've had private discussions with him. Omoyele Sowore has done too much damage knowingly, not unknowingly. He's done, too much damage, too much knowing lies. He doesn't like you. He will look for ways to write lies about you, to blackmail you. He's done it on several occasions. I've said this on camera. If I'm lying, he should take me to court. And obviously, I can assure you he's not going to take me to court. Because if he takes me to court, he would end up owing me money. because I will defeat him in America, England, and Nigeria.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. One more question. Adebo Rhodes Viver, young, vibrant, educated in MIT. Do you think he can make a good governor?
Viver will not make a good governor for the simple reason that he came into this race not because of his own desire, but because he was brought in by a godfather. He was brought in by a godfather, by Bode George. And then after Bode George brought him, you know, it was one godfather hijacked him from the other godfather. Peter Obi now hijacked him from Bode George. So how can you expect, listen, yes, one thing that you have to understand, Atiku Abubakar and Bola Tinubu and Peter Obi, the three of them, and I know this is going to, people are going to use this against me, any of them becoming president of Nigeria, they are going to be good presidents. Any of them. Any of them.
I think I agree.
And the reason why, yeah, go ahead.
Can I interject? I've said this before. My initial choice was Bola Tinubu because I've lived in Lagos and I saw the evolution of Lagos first. I came to Lagos 21 years ago and I saw how Lagos evolved. Maybe it didn't evolve fast enough, but I saw it. But Bola Tinubu's age was a problem for me, as well as the many controversies surrounding what you especially raised. So that was what made me shaky for Bola Tinubu. Peter Obi was my second best choice. What made me pull out of Peter Obi was obedience. I cannot be in a party where nobody's allowed to have any other. I cannot be in a party where I believe Peter Obi is good for president, but I believe Sanwo-Olu is good for Lagos governor, and you will fight me. I was like, this level of toxicity is too much for me. Atiku I also like, but I felt that just like Bola Tinubu, the age factor is going to be on their side. And also, we would need some level of change. But trust me, compared to the present regime that we have now, any one of these gentlemen is 100 times better. Give me an or give me a Tinubu, as long as we don't have what we have now. My opinion.
No, I don't think you're wrong. And the reason why is not even because of what you said. The reason why it's just this is because Atiku Abubakar, Bola Tinubu, and Peter Obi have ambition. They wanted to be president. It is from them. It's coming from internally. It's coming from them. The worst presidents of countries anywhere in the world are people that were brought in by others to become presidents. Reluctant presidents. Look at Shagari. Shagari never wanted to be president. He never wanted to be president at all. He never wanted to be president. And look at what happened. So when you have an ambition to be president, what happens? You begin to plan, right? And then when you begin to plan, by the time you become president, you are able to hit the ground running. You're able to hit the ground running. So people like that. So in terms of the gubernatorial, Jandor, Sanwo-Olu, you know, Rhodes Bible, I think that any of them will make a fairly decent governor. But in my opinion, Sanwo-Olu will be the best to remain because he is already doing so well, and to change a horse midstream is going to be damaging for Lagos. Now, let me tell you why I'm thinking like this, even though I'm PDP. Listen to me, please. If Lagos' economy goes down, Nigeria's economy is going to go down with it. Let me end there.
Okay. Lovely having you. Parting notes. You want to say?
Well, my parting words. Well, what I'll just say is this: is that Nigerians should learn to transcend their emotions. They've got to understand. If you read Scripture, Scripture says in the book of Job, you know, it says that there is a spirit in a man, Job 32:8, the breath of the Almighty that gives him inspiration. That is the only thing that separates you from an animal. Otherwise, you are an animal. So human beings are half animal, half spirit. That's what makes us human. That's why you have an intellect. That's why you have intuition. That's why you have imagination. So if you take, for instance, now a dog, and then if you put blindfold on the eyes of a dog, the dog's imagination is limited because the dog's imagination is just based on what it sees. That's why if you go to a race for race horses, you see that they always blindfold the horses. I don't know if you've seen that. They blindfold the horses so that they can just focus on running. So you are not an animal, you are a human being. So your emotions, they were given to you so that you could operate here on this physical realm. So that when you see something, like maybe a lion chasing you, you have the emotion of fear. And that fear releases adrenaline in your body, and you can run faster, or you can think, very quickly, or like you have an emotion of embarrassment, so that your conscience is telling you that, oh, you know what, something I just did, I'm embarrassed by it, so I shouldn't do it again. So you have to understand that your emotions, they belong to you. You don't belong to your emotions. So you should be able to transcend them. So for history, for politics, even for business, transcend your emotion. Don't be tied to your tribe. Be tied to your principles. Thank you for watching, and may God bless all of you.
Thank you so much, Reno. Thank you so much.
No, go ahead. I will take it. Go ahead.
Question. This is a popular debate between APC people and obedience. When asked, what did Bola Tinubu do in Lagos compared to what Peter Obi did in Anambra State? Obedience always say that Lagos is 30% of Nigeria's GDP. Lagos is a favored state. The ports are here, the airports are here, a lot of the bases are here, most of the telecom head office are here. So Bola Tinubu, according to the obedience, had a lot to work with, while Peter Obi did not have as much resources to work with, so he couldn't achieve what Lagos achieved, for instance, because of the limits of the resources. Then also, they would say that Lagos has more revenue than Anambra State, for instance. And this has always been a point of debate. Obedience would say, what have they done in Lagos? What have they achieved in Lagos? And APC people will retaliate, what has Peter done? So let's talk about achievements in Lagos and Anambra from your perspective, or like you always like to say, from the fact
I was a presidential spokesman. And I went around Nigeria, and I have data from Nigeria, from everywhere in Nigeria. Anambra State is the most industrialized part of Nigeria per capita. Now, when you talk about the most industrialized state, Lagos and Ogun combined together, they are the most industrialized states. But when you talk about per capita, listen to what I'm using, per capita, Anambra is actually more industrialized than any part of Nigeria. Anambra is home to Nigeria's only indigenous auto manufacturer. I didn't say auto assembly plant, no. Automobile manufacturer, Innocent Motors. Anambra is home to Nigeria's second largest cement manufacturer, Ibeto Cement. Nnewi is the Japan of Africa. Nnewi, I've been there. Nnewi is the Japan of Africa. As I'm speaking to you right now, they are making spare parts for airplanes in Nnewi. Please fact check me. Spare parts for airplanes. The Nigerian Air Force now buys their spare parts from Nnewi. Anambra is situated along the River Niger. Anambra has commerce, inland with commerce coming along the River Niger. The governors of Anambra have no excuse to make Anambra like Lagos. That is not true. When Bola Tinubu, and don't forget, this is a man that let me use a local. I was the one that exposed him as a drug lord. I went to the University of Chicago, and I refused to lie. I was, what's his name? Rufai tried to make me lie. I said, no. I went there. I met with their registrar, their version of their registrar, because they don't call it registrar in America. And I was told, and I was given documents, Bola Tinubu did attend the university. So all those things that Bola Tinubu did not attend Chicago State University is not true. But however, I also went to the federal court in Chicago. Bola Tinubu is a drug lord, and he cannot take me to court. I did, in fact. But nevertheless, what he did in Lagos is a near miracle. From 1999, taking the internally generated revenue of Lagos from 2 billion to over 140 billion per annum. Of course, Fashola came in and improved on that, but he began that. And so for people who say that, okay, what did he do? What did he do? Look at Lagos. Just take a look at the map of Lagos before Bola Tinubu and then map of Lagos now. And please, if Bola Tinubu invites me to come and serve in his government, God forbid, but let me even use an evil word, to fear, not me and the drug lord. So I don't want anything for Bola Tinubu. I just speak the facts as they are. The man did a lot in terms of infrastructure. The Lekki Free Trade Zone, he started it. Am I lying? He built new cities entirely from the scratch. He reclaimed land from the Atlantic. A first in Africa, he reclaimed land. No, sorry, not a first. Egypt did it also. Sorry, so maybe a second. He reclaimed.
Now, sorry to interject. Information I got was that, according to many sources, it is believed that the Eco-Atlantic project was a federal project done through the Aguris, the owners of Eco Hotel, not directly through.
I'm not talking about Eco-Atlantic City. The reclamation of land was a Lagos project in conjunction with the environmental fund. So it was the environmental fund. Ecological fund is a federal fund. So Eco-Atlantic City is a private enterprise. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the reclamation of land from the Atlantic. So let's not conflate issues. Then also schools that the man built. Let me ask you a question. Obi was governor of Anambra for 8 years. By his own confession, when he's been asked, what did you do? He says, I brought in a beer brewery. The beer brewery right now is at a loss. It's a loss-making beer brewery. But that is not even the issue. That's not even the issue. Do you know how many factories and how many companies and how many conglomerates came to Lagos under Bola Tinubu? That somebody, after spending 8 years as governor, your signature project is that you brought a brewery. You should be ashamed of it. That's why I told you that Obi cannot even compare with the local government chairman for Etiosa. Because if you go there, that man will tell you that I brought this and this and this, tangible things. So if you want to talk about achievements, look, let me tell you something now. Are you aware, Ifedayo, that as of 1999, Lagos did not feature in one of the biggest economies in Africa? But as of 2007, when Bola Tinubu handed over to Fashola, Lagos's economy was actually bigger than the economy of Kenya. Please, as I'm speaking right now, bring out your phone and Google. Google right now. If Reno Omokri is a liar, say it. Write it that I'm a liar. You, Daddy Freeze, don't you have a phone? Google it right now. Lagos's economy was actually bigger than the economy of Kenya. Google it right now.
Lagos, Nigeria's richest state, producing about $90 billion a year in services, making its economy bigger than most African countries, including Ghana and Kenya.
So before Bola Tinubu, Lagos's GDP was less than 10 billion. I think it was about, if I can remember correctly, it was about 6.5 billion. So what are you talking about? Right now, Lagos economy is about 4 times the economy of Niger Republic. So in Niger Republic, that big country, Lagos is their GDP is 4 times Niger Republic's. So if you want to talk about achievements, I mean, don't. In fact, it is an insult to compare Tinubu with Obi. It's an insult.
Now, here's my problem with obedience. I tabled a question before Reno. Una don't begin to insult me again. If you don't like his answer, go to the comment section below and drop your own facts. No need to fight him. I'm just asking questions. Why fighting me? As in, sometimes there are conversations I would love to have, but I do not have because of the level of attack that would come from Obi's camp. What are Obi's achievements? Drop them in the comment section. You think it's an opinion, or if you have facts, because Reno likes talking from perspective. If you have your own facts, drop them in the comment section. And if you can show me that your facts are superior to Reno's facts, I will bring you live to showcase your facts about Obi in Anambra. Question: who are more? You might think otherwise. Reno don't tell you who in the for. You can also come to my live if you can prove to me that Obi achieved more within the same time frame.
Look, put your hands up like this. Put your hands up like this. Put your hands up. Okay. Now, let this hand with the watch represent Bola Tinubu. Let the other hand represent Peter Obi. Who has built railway between the two of them? Okay, good. Now, who has built a statewide bus terminal system between the two of them? Okay, good. Who has built a brand new free trade zone between the two of them? Okay, good. Now, who has built an independent power plant between the two of them? Okay, now, who has changed this state's taxation structure, whereby it now produces 4 times what it used to produce before him? Okay, so what facts do you have to now say that this hand that is still low is greater than the other hand? Forget about the man, his teeth is yellow, maybe he used to take cocaine before, I don't know. It might be true, it might not be true, but let's focus on the facts of achievements. Bola Tinubu is a nasty piece of work because he was a drug lord, and people who were involved in drugs destroyed the lives of youths. Heroin is a drug that kills thousands of youths every year. But the man has achieved by far more than this Peter Obi. Maybe we should end it here before they come and look for you to kill.
Okay, that's as far as I go. Remember, I'm politically neutral. I'm the Minister of Defense, not as but defense. I'm Minister of Defense. So call me Minister of Defense. I have no political affiliations. I have, how do they say when you give up? Word. Have given up all political affiliations